बहुत से स्ट्रेसेस आते हैं, जैसे कि आई डेंट गेट इन टू द कॉलेज ऑफ माई चॉइस, पोस्टपार्टम डिप्रेशन, लोगों को बच्चे पैदा करने के बाद भी हार्मोनल चेंजेस होते हैं, आफ्टर मैरिज, death of a loved one. There's so many breakup.
नमस्कार दोस्तों, हाय गाइस, वेलकम टू डीप टॉक वंस अगेन। दिस अ वेरी स्पेशल एपिसोड ऑफ डीप टॉक। आज बहुत ही खास मेहमान है मेरे साथ। शी इज़ अ साइकोथेरेपिस्ट, यानी जो थेरेपिस्ट, एंड शी वाज माय साइकोथेरेपिस्ट एट वन पॉइंट। यस, आई डोंट नो इफ यू रिमेंबर द मूवी टू स्टेट्स। उसमें अगर आपको ओपनिंग सीन याद हो तो अर्जुन कपूर गोज टू अ थेरेपिस्ट। दैट सीन is there because it's there in the book which I wrote, Two States, and that book I wrote inspired by the therapist I'm going to talk to today. And I'll tell you why I've called a psychotherapist for the first time on a deep talk, which is usually about entrepreneurs, billionaires, actors, sports people, all those things. But today, actually, about a psychotherapist here who is also a friend, you can say now, Dr. Ashika Mehta. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, Chetan. It's been such a long association, and I hope today's talk will help us reach many, many people to simplify all the mystery around mental health and the everyday struggles that we all experience.
डेफिनेटली। एंड मेरा तो बस एक ही एम था कि नॉर्मली आप थेरेपिस्ट होते थे और मैं बोल रहा होता था, आज मैं सुनूंगा और मैं आज आपसे जो मर्जी पूछ सकता हूँ। सो दैट इज द एम। बट या डेफिनेटली गाइस, आई कॉल डॉक्टर आशिका हेयर बिकॉज आई फील कि ये मेंटल हेल्थ का बहुत जगह, अगर आप इंस्टाग्राम खोलो, यूट्यूब खोलो, हर जगह मेंटल हेल्थ पे पोस्ट होते हैं, मेंटल हेल्थ पे आर्टिकल्स होते हैं, बड़े बड़े एक्टर्स बोल रहे हैं मुझे मेंटल हेल्थ इश्यूज है, कोई बोल रहा है। तो कई बार हमें समझ नहीं आता कि ये क्या चीज़ है मेंटल हेल्थ। पहली बात होता क्या था बिल्कुल ही बेसिक लेवल पे। हालांकि डॉक्टर आशिका इज मोर देन व्हाट अराउंड 20 years of experience now,
Almost.
20 years of experience seeing people, on ground experience, and of course she has her education. So maybe कुछ questions मैं आपसे पूछूंगा, maybe they are too basic, but I think people need to understand the basics
I
also.
think let's start simply, simplify it, demystify it for everyone so we can help as many people as possible.
ठीक है, तो पहली बात तो when I open Instagram, when I open any of these, let's say YouTube also sometimes, or I open newspaper articles, उसमें लिखा होता है you must take care of your mental health, right? और फिजिकल हेल्थ तो समझ आती है कि भाई you should like be fit, and you should be able to run, and you should be able to be flexible, and you should have strength and muscles and all those things, not be overweight. लेकिन मेंटल हेल्थ क्या है? ये कोई नई टर्म है, हमें तो नहीं पता थी। जब हम बड़े हो रहे थे, तब कोई ये नहीं बोलता था मेंटल। अभी ये जब सोशल मीडिया के साथ ही आई है, तो व्हाट इज़ मेंटल हेल्थ?
तो पहले यही प्रॉब्लम होता था कि सब लोग एजुकेशन के बारे में बात करते थे, पर हमारी मानसिक स्टेबिलिटी क्या है, पेरेंटिंग कैसे होना चाहिए, स्कूल में कौन से सिचुएशंस बच्चों को अफेक्ट करते हैं, जैसे कि बुलिंग, टीचर्स के एटीट्यूड्स, इसके बारे में कोई बात नहीं करता था। लेकिन साइकोलॉजी में हमें पता चला है कि इसकी बहुत बड़ी इम्पैक्ट होती है हमारे लाइफ पे, because between the ages of 0 to 9 more specifically हमारी ब्लूप्रिंट बनती है, कि हमारी मेंटल ब्लूप्रिंट। इसका मतलब क्या है कि वी रियलाइज, we start forming beliefs based on our experiences at home.
0 to 9 में?
0 to 9 में।
हम तो इतने छोटे हैं, तब तो मम्मी दूध पिला दो बस हो गए, मतलब उसमें
पर
उसमें
इतना सिंपल नहीं होता है ना। अगर फॉर एग्जांपल किसी के फैमिली में से फाइनेंशियल प्रॉब्लम्स है, या पेरेंट्स के बीच कुछ
झगड़ा है।
डिफ़िकल्ट झगड़ा है, डिफ़िकल्ट मैरिज है, तो इसका असर बच्चे को भी होता है। Imagine how helpless that child who is 6 years old feels if there's domestic violence between the parents, if there's aggression between the parents, if there's loud talking, shouting, punishing, hitting at home. That child is going to grow up feeling the world is not a safe place. I work with adults today who have experienced alag alag tarah ke trauma when they are younger, and that really affects them even in adulthood, because they have developed very strong ideas about इट्स नॉट सेफ टू बी वल्नरेबल। मेरे जो भी इमोशंस हैं, मैं अगर वो नेगेटिव इमोशंस है, अगर मुझे डर लग रहा है, अगर मुझे इफ आई एम फीलिंग गिल्टी, अगर इफ़ आई फील शेम, I can't talk about these things openly because I will be mocked, I will be shot down, I will be persecuted for talking about these things. But they're very real emotions that we all feel. And so when the 0 to 9 is when we form that template of, is it okay to be vulnerable, is it okay to be curious, is it okay to have needs? And it depends on those experiences how that template shapes up. So someone who's gone through financial problems may never ask their parents for anything. That child wants to do a particular class, they want to buy something. Then when they grow up, those same patterns repeat in adult life. They will never
मतलब
assert,
कैसे होगा?
जैसे फ्रेंड्स के साथ, they will never tell them कि हाँ, अगर किसी ने पूछा आपको हम कौन से रेस्टोरेंट में जाए खाने को, जो भी आप वट एवर यू वॉन्ट उनका आंसर होगा. But actually, we all have an opinion, no? You know, if you want to eat Chinese food or if you want to eat Italian food.
Yeah,
But
or
you are
both.
so
I want to.
used to not giving your opinion throughout your life because you think if you do, it will cause stress to the other person or who is already stressed, that you may not be assertive in the way that is normal and healthy. So, when we talk about mental health, what is mental health? It is really the ability to be authentic, to express yourself, to not feel shame and guilt about being who you are, to be able to feel a sense of joy and purpose in your life, to be able to be a healthy, contributing member of society, the ability to manage everyday stresses. That is mental health. I'll give you another example. I was working with a young woman and her parents didn't have time for her. She came from a middle class Indian family. Both
This is
parents
a lot
were
of
working.
people.
Yeah,
So
this
ये तो
is
कोई uncommon. It's not some extreme example.
exactly. It's a common, it's like you, me, anyone.
Yeah.
She came from a normal family with two working parents who didn't really get along. They had had an arranged marriage and they never had time for her. Every time she would go to them to say, I'm struggling in school, मुझे ये difficult लग रहा है, मेरे grades अच्छे नहीं हैं, मेरे पास friends नहीं हैं, जो भी problems उसके थे, जब भी वो अपने पापा के पास जाती, Papa would say, these are not problems. I have no time. Pull your socks up. When she'd go to her mother, poor mother's working two jobs, she thought actually didn't have time. And this girl felt very shut down. What started happening to her in her teenage years is she got withdrawn into her own little shell. She felt rejected so many times when she tried to talk about her feelings that over time she realized that, or she started to believe, I cannot talk about my feelings. And so it affected the quality of her friendships. She became very recluse. When it came to getting older and maybe looking for a life partner, she had gone so into her shell that she had isolated herself to protect herself from rejection. Now this is not depression, this is not anxiety, this is not some schizophrenia or some huge kind of mental disability or mental disorder. This is an everyday lack of mental health.
We all have had that, and I think आजकल तो बहुत common भी हो गया है. Both couple, mother father are working or they are busy or whatever, and you're saying this little girl who was maybe 0 to 9, so must be like 6 7 years. He went, मेरा homework करा दो, कोई नहीं करा रहा, whatever, and it happened many times, not just once, and it impacted her so much कि she was just like withdrawn from people.
Yes, she got so scared of rejection that
So she
she would
couldn't
not
make friends.
ask. She couldn't make help. She couldn't ask for help. When she needed something, she would just fester and not ask and procrastinate and not do the task. But she couldn't ask someone because she was so afraid of getting shot down.
What has really happened? It's your brain has basically wired itself in a way कि
Yes.
ये करोगे तो it's associated with trauma. तो मतलब जब मैंने किसी से मदद मांगी थी हमेशा मेरी रिजेक्शन हुई, तो ये वो मतलब बड़े होके भी आपका ब्रेन वैसे ही सोचता रहता है.
हाँ जी, वैसे ही होता है, पर देयर इज़ अ डिफरेंस. वॉट एवर withdrawing was her coping strategy as a child to survive in that family and in that unit. Because how much rejection can you take as a child, right? After some time, to protect yourself from that pain, you stop asking. But when you reach adulthood, your set of circumstances is different.
Yes.
You're not that same helpless child. But what the brain does is it keeps taking you back, because that is the blueprint, that is the map of the world that is formed in your mind. So it keeps taking you back to that place of
हेल्प नहीं मांगनी, हेल्प मांगी तो पेन मिलता है, हेल्प नहीं मांगनी, बड़े हो गए, अभी भी हेल्प नहीं मांगनी, बस अब एंड नाउ आई एम फीलिंग लोनली, आई फील टेरिबल, आई फील आइसोलेटेड।
अभी तो सर्कमस्टांसेस अलग है ना, आपके फ्रेंड्स तो आपके पेरेंट्स नहीं है, हर कोई ज़िंदगी में आपको अलग से ट्रीट करेगा, पीपल विल respond to your needs differently. Everyone's not going to respond to your needs in the same way that your parents responded when you were 6 or 7 or 8 or 9. So really part of therapy or counseling is to go through a process of reprogramming your mind, questioning your beliefs, examining your blueprint, and saying, what out of this is working for me? इसमें से क्या मेरे लिए वैल्यूबल है, क्या वर्क कर रहा है, और मैं किन चीज़ों को क्वेश्चन करूँ? Which beliefs do I need to question and which beliefs do I need to change?
Yeah. We'll go to solutions. हम जाएंगे solution के, but I'm still trying to understand. आपने mental health का बताया, so he said one is you are authentic. मतलब आप जो अंदर से सोचते हो वो बोलते हो, right? And वही करते हो life में. Then you said it's something to do with contributing to society, feeling a sense of purpose in life, and feeling joy and happiness, right?
And feeling fulfilled.
Feeling fulfilled all the time. Everybody, I mean, people who have good mental health feel like that all the time, or because or do they have bad moods? I mean, what I'm trying to understand.
We're not superhuman.
नहीं, वही मैं समझने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि जैसे सपोजिंग आज मैं बस स्टॉप पे हूँ और मेरी बस मिस हो गई, या बस नहीं आई, या उबर नहीं मिल रहा है, या एंड नाउ आई एम इन अ टेरिबल मूड. नाउ डज इट मीन आई हैव मेंटल हेल्थ इश्यूज?
Definitely not, because moods come and go. Moods, as the situation goes, a mood goes. But there are the difference between someone with a healthy mindset and a good mental health and someone with not such great mental health would be, for example, you come to work and your boss says something critical to you.
ये क्या प्रेजेंटेशन बनाया है?
क्या बनाया है, बराबर नहीं किया, तुम्हें कुछ समझ में नहीं आता, इतने टाइम लगाते हो एक प्रोजेक्ट को ख़त्म करने में. In both those situations, our mental health will dictate how we perceive that situation. जिनका mental health अच्छा होता है, जो बैलेंस में रहते हैं, वो समझ पाएंगे कि अब मेरे बॉस का क्रिटिसिज्म उसका मतलब नहीं है कि आई एम नॉट अ गुड पर्सन, दैट आई एम नॉट वर्दी. आई एम वर्दी. Maybe there's an explanation for why I couldn't get this done. And if I think I have done a good job and the boss is still critical, then this is something about the boss's mindset. Maybe he's having a bad day. This is not about me. You're able to create that separation between what people are saying and how you see yourself. You see yourself as a capable person. For someone with poorer mental health, वो उस क्रिटिसिज्म को रिएक्ट करेंगे, उससे उनको लगेगा कि माय गॉड, am I good enough, am I not good enough, am I worthy, am I not worthy. If I think I'm incapable, or if I think I'm not very, if I have some self doubt, it'll magnify that. So that is the difference.
So lack of confidence is also a mental health issue when you're not confident, because I think it's part of growing up. Like a lot of people, when we are young, I remember when I was young, I was very underconfident about meeting people older than me or like more competent than me. And yeah, I would question myself and doubt myself. And even like मेरे चैनल पे ऐसे बहुत यूथ आते हैं जो कहते हैं कि लाइफ में कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं है, कुछ करना चाहते हैं, लाइक दे वांट टू डू समथिंग इन लाइफ, दे वांट टू ओपन अ बिजनेस, दे वांट टू गेट अ जॉब, दे वांट टू अप्लाई, दे वांट टू डू, बट दे समहाउ अंदर से एक बिलीफ नहीं आ रहा है कि यू नो दे फील लाइक दे आर नॉट मेंट फॉर अ गुड लाइफ, दे आर नॉट मेंट फॉर अ
वो बिलीफ क्यों नहीं आता? एक बहुत बड़ी थेरेपिस्ट है यूएस में, उनका नाम है ब्रेने ब्राउन. उन्होंने बहुत से यूट्यूब टॉक्स किए हैं, हाईएस्ट हिट्स ऑन अ यूट्यूब टॉक. एंड वो इस बारे में बात करती हैं, वल्नरेबिलिटी एंड शेम. We are growing up in a culture that tells us we should not be vulnerable. And we get this messaging from everywhere. आप YouTube खोल के देखेंगे कोई vulnerable, is anyone talking about their problems? No, everyone is talking about their success. You open
Maldives में
Instagram.
holiday.
Maldives, it can be Maldives mein holiday, it can be I won this, it can be I gave this talk,
I ate this burger.
yeah, everything is achievement oriented. But life doesn't start like that for everyone. You know, Chetan, better than anyone else that you have to stumble, you have to fall, you have to course correct. There are a lot of struggles in life before you actually get to that sense of success or achievement. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that you have to be willing to be vulnerable. We are growing up in a culture where people are afraid to be vulnerable. You have to act with courage. And that courage comes when you believe in yourself, when you're not afraid of falling. Falling is a natural part of getting to where you want to get. एक बच्चा जब छोटा होता है डायरेक्टली भागता नहीं है ना, पहले क्रॉल करता है, फिर गिरता है, फिर चलता है, फिर दौड़ता है. तो दैट इज़ इन लाइफ इन एनीथिंग एंड वी हैव टू लुक एट इट फ्रॉम अ हेल्थी पर्सपेक्टिव. Someone with good mental health will have a growth mindset. They'll be able to see that everything, even when I fall, I'm learning and I'm growing, and it's part of my journey. Someone with a more traditional fixed mindset will say, I, I want to see myself as capable, so I will not try the things where I think I might not succeed or I may falter. I will not be able to do that. So you'll become an avoidant person because you're not comfortable being vulnerable. And that is the messaging increasingly that is coming through in our schooling systems.
I think थोड़ा इंडियन कल्चर भी है ऐसा कि एक तो हमारा एजुकेशन सिस्टम है ही ऐसा, आपके 2 मार्क्स कम आ गए, आपकी लाइफ ही अलग हो जाएगी। आपका उस एंट्रेंस एग्ज़ाम में हो गया, आप उस कॉलेज में हो, आप चले गए एनआईटी या आईआईटी, नहीं गए तो फिर पता नहीं क्या
आपको
हो।
पता है आप
हाँ,
what you
so
went
you
through
can't
for
make
IIT.
mistakes. What you say कि गिरते पड़ते ये इट्स ओके टू फॉल, इट्स ओके टू मेक मिस्टेक्स। प्लस लाइक यू नो देयर इज़ दिस आई थिंक कल्चर है कि बड़ों की इज़्ज़त करो, बड़ों की रिस्पेक्ट करो, जो बड़े कहें, बड़ों का कहना मानो। सो एवरीथिंग इज़
और
अबाउट
इसमें प्रॉब्लम आ जाता है बिकॉज देर इज नो स्पेस टू बी ऑथेंटिक, देर इज
हाँ,
नो
जो आप वही
स्पेस टू express your needs yourself, and the world.
give me examples of cases you've seen where because I get this a lot, but sir, what about our parents? Sir, but मेरे को कहते हैं, I want my dream is to do this,
अरे
but what
आज
about
ही मैं किसी से बात कर रही थी और वो लड़का, उसे आर्ट्स स्टडी करना था, उसे फिल्म मेकिंग में जाना था और उसके पेरेंट्स ने कहा कि फिल्म मेकिंग में पैसा कहाँ है, आपको एमबीए नहीं बिजनेस स्कूल जाना है अमेरिका में. तो उसकी एप्लीकेशन हुई, वो गया, वहाँ एक सेमेस्टर में वो वहाँ से ड्रॉप आउट हो गया. उसने कहा कि ये मेरे लिए नहीं है, मुझे नहीं करना है, और वो गहरी डिप्रेशन में है.
oh really?
और वो
Why is
पास
he
भी
why
नहीं
is he
है.
in depression?
Because his whole life he did what his parents expected of him. They expected him to go to do study business, come back, take over the family
How
business.
old is he?
He's 19 or 18, and he always was pleasing them, but that was also built into the culture. If he did not please them and he expressed early enough what he wanted to do, the family would turn around and say, you're not being a dutiful son. How much we've done for you, and this is how you pay us back. This is your gratitude. And it's not that people.
But now he is being authentic. उसने छोड़ दिया ना?
उसने अभी
छोड़
छोड़
दिया,
पर
तो अब वो
क्यों
कुछ क्यों नहीं
छोड़
है?
दिया?
पर
क्योंकि
डिप्रेशन क्यों है?
क्योंकि उसको इतना वहाँ पे उसका मन नहीं लग रहा था बिजनेस स्टडीज़ में. तो डिप्रेशन छोड़ने से नहीं हुआ, डिप्रेशन हुआ क्योंकि ही वॉज बींग इनऑथेंटिक टू हिमसेल्फ. वो जो उसके मन में था, ही वॉज नॉट एबल टू बी ट्रू टू दैट. So the depression came now. Now he's applying to film school and going, but it took this much struggle for the family to realize that maybe his course is different, his path is different, his vision is different.
Yeah. And this is someone who you're saying whose parents actually have the means to send him to the US and all, and he is facing this. Most Indian families. So ऐसी चॉइस ही नहीं है कि अभी जाओ फिर ड्रॉप आउट करो फिर फिल्म स्कूल फिर बाहर जाओ, ऐसा है ही नहीं। यही करना है, नहीं करोगे तो
तुम इंजीनियर नहीं बनोगे, डॉक्टर नहीं बनोगे तो सड़क पे आ जाओगे। और इसमें कितने लोगों को कितनी कठिनाइयाँ होती हैं, कि बहुत एंजाइटी होती है, सेल्फ डाउट आता है।
yeah. And guys, if you have faced something like this, please do put in the comments below. I'll have Dr. Ashika's seat as well, because I just want to tell her ki this is what we are discussing is actually aap mental health keh rahe ho ki this is a lack of mental health. I would just say this is Indian life.
This is life, but it comes with so much struggle, so much anxiety, so much lack of confidence.
इंडिया में कौन ऑथेंटिक होता है? इंडिया में तो सब जॉइंट फैमिलीज में रहते हैं, सबको प्रिटेंड करना है, सबके माँ बाप के आगे कुछ बन रहे हैं, फिर छुप छुप के मिल रहे हैं। लाइक फॉर एग्जाम्पल टेक डेटिंग फॉर एग्जाम्पल, राइट? इट्स सो टैबू स्टिल इन पार्ट्स ऑफ इंडिया, वेयर इट्स लाइक यू नो अ गर्ल हैज़ टू प्रेजेंट अ सर्टन इमेज एट होम, अंकल के आगे, पेरेंट्स के आगे, दादाजी के आगे, वो एंड देन छुप छुप के बाइक पे पीछे बैठ के दुपट्टा मुंह पे लगा के पिक्चर देखने जाना। इन अ वे दैट्स बीइंग, आई मीन इट्स फन एंड वी मेक इट लाइक ओके, I can make
We
books about,
romanticize
हाँ,
it.
we romanticize and I can make book, अरे वाह मजे आ गए, but at the end of the day you are living
उसको कितनी एंजाइटी होती होगी कि अगर कोई मुझे देखेगा तो मेरा क्या हो जाए।
हाँ, but this is common.
But why should people live like this is the question. And this is why India has such a high level of mental health issues that nobody is seeing and nobody is even diagnosing as mental health issues. लोगों को इतना stress होता है, इतनी anxiety, इतना depression, and it is all going undiagnosed.
But we are all pretending. I mean, India is about
Pretending.
pretending.
To a large
It's
extent.
our culture.
Our culture has some very positive sides to it as well. I think we are evolved in some ways, spiritually, in terms of understanding the purpose of life. But I think we are a society that cares too much about perception and how others view us. Too much.
No, guilty. I'm also guilty. I remember when I got married, and so Anusha, by no means am I endorsing alcohol, or by no means am I saying that my wife drinks a lot of alcohol. But every now and then she would have a glass of wine, and yeah, I mean that's she was in college with me, and it was normal, and people have boys have girls have whatever. But much after marriage, I remember in our 30s, when we were in our 30s, I would tell her, जब मम्मी आए ना तो पी लो वाइन, लेकिन स्टील के ग्लास में पी लेना कि, and it sounds ridiculous, but it's totally normal. And I did it for a while, and then ultimately I told myself, yeah, I'm in my 30s now, I'm living in my own house. अब अगर maybe I was trying to present a image to my mother कि आपकी बहू ऐसी, you know, because I feel like my mother will think अरे ये तो शराब पीती है, you know what I mean. तो आई थॉट कि चलो वो स्टील में सोचेंगे रूह अफ़ज़ा फिर आई डोंट नो क्या सोच रहे सो एंड देन ऑब्वियसली अनुषा डिडंट लाइक इट, एंड देन इवेंचुअली आई सेड यू नो व्हाट, डू व्हाटएवर यू वांट, just drink from the bottle, I don't care.
That required the courage to be vulnerable, Chetan.
It's so stupid.
But it required courage to be vulnerable, to face the criticism or the comments of your mother. And how I think one of the most important things as a society that we need to recognize is how others feel is not our responsibility. If we are trying to live authentically and we are trying to live conscientiously without, and our intention is not to hurt somebody but to be true to ourselves, then how the other person feels, they have to come to terms with and deal with. And this is a complicated concept.
नहीं but ये I want to repeat that line, guys. This is like in India, this is probably like, you know, these posts they have what sounds illegal but is actually legal. This is one of those. She just said, and she's a psychotherapist, and she's saying how others feel is not your responsibility. जो और लोग महसूस कर रहे हैं वो आपकी जिम्मेदारी नहीं है. How others feel is not your responsibility. Someone else, Namita Thapar, came on this podcast who is from MCure Pharma, and she said one quote she had heard, which I like a lot now: "Be yourself, the world will adjust."
Exactly. Exactly. Just the example of that boy who wanted to study film. The parents have had to adjust, no? So it takes time, but we are so afraid. We are such a people pleasing society, because that is our blueprint from childhood. That is what school has taught us. That is what Indian culture has taught us. You have to constantly please and put your needs under the carpet. Put your needs under the carpet. No, that's not how you are going to lead a fulfilling life. That's not how you're going to actualize your potential. Be respectful. Don't go out of your way to hurt people, but also be true to what you want from your life.
Step one towards better health. We'll go through many steps, guys, here. But step one is to be yourself and be your authentic self, which means not just in the profession, like whether filmmaking or whatever, but in the way you are with your parents, with your friends, with your society. लोग क्या कहेंगे? This whole thing is a very कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, this song, but because there is this लोग क्या कहेंगे is such a big thing in India. uh, like for example, people will say अब तेरी उम्र हो गई है, अब शादी कर ले, नहीं तो लोग क्या कहेंगे, है ना? And if someone says I don't know, I want to work as a welder, which is a perfectly respectable job, but nahi, you must do a white collar job, and even if it's boring, you have to be an accountant. For example, nothing against accountants, guys. I love my accountant, but supposing the guy really wants to be a welder, उसको कभी welder बनने बोलेंगे लोग क्या कहेंगे? कम से कम accountant तो बन, which is poles apart kind of.
पर अगर उसने वेल्डिंग किया और उस he is interested in what he's doing, the chances of him being satisfied with his life and much more successful in his career is higher. The step one is being authentic. सब लोग कहते हैं कि do what you love, पर आप ऑथेंटिक ही नहीं होंगे और आपके पास करेज ही नहीं होगा टू से व्हाट यू लव, तो हाउ विल यू डू व्हाट यू लव?
That's true.
Forget that. You are doing what you love, Chetan. You're not working in a bank.
I was fake and inauthentic for a very long time, and I think like it's not like कि मैंने नहीं किया, मैंने भी किया ना, मैंने भी इंजीनियरिंग करी, MBA करा, 11 साल बैंक में काम किया. Then I finally quit, and to quit I became miserable. I was probably like this. Why I asked you about this boy was who said it's depressed. I was maybe not depression, but I was pretty sad. That's when I came to you. That's when the only time I've come for therapy really is when I had to make this decision कि should I leave my job or not, because लोग क्या कहेंगे, लोग people were like, are you crazy, who leaves an investment banking job which pays so much money? I was in Deutsche Bank at that time.
You realize that money is not everything.
But that was me.
But money is not everything only after a certain point, Chetan.
Yes.
There have been recent studies done on happiness in the US. There's a whole movement called positive psychology, which is the study of happiness and what makes us happy. And one of the studies there showed that this is by US standards, that beyond $75,000 income a year, money doesn't play a role in happiness. That after that it's diminishing marginal utility of money. Happiness comes from other things. Happiness comes from connection to other people, and the more money you make, the more stratified you get, the more isolated you get, and it's difficult. The busier you get trying to manage your money and invest your money and protect your money. And sometimes what it does is it takes you away from those human connections that are so important. We as human beings, our primal need is a need for connection. Connection to friends, connection to family, and authentic connection where you can speak about your feelings, where you can speak about your thoughts without fear of being judged.
ये नहीं कि बुआ जी के साथ बैठे हैं, हो तो रहा है connection, but it's totally fake because you can't tell बुआ जी that I met my boyfriend on Tinder.
Correct.
It's kind of like, and बुआ जी is like, see कोई अच्छा लड़का ढूंढ ले, हाँ जी बुआ जी. So that's fake.
That's inauthentic, right? But to have a friend, to have a cousin, everyone finds those few people that they can be authentic with. And I think friendships are a great place to establish that authenticity. And हमारी young generation अभी इस system को बदल सकती है. थोड़ी सी courage के साथ we can be more honest with our parents. And courage takes time to develop, no? I don't expect every 16-year-old to display the same courage. Look at Chetan, for example. When he could stand on his own feet, he could.
Very late. Yeah.
You develop that, and it takes different time.
Like you said, authenticity, full authenticity, when you really reach a point in life where you don't give a F about what anyone says, that has taken me, I would say I am now 80-90% there. I would say not 100% there, but only in my 40s that has happened. And that has happened now because I remember when my first books came out, एक कोई critical review भी आ जाता था, it would affect me for days and like this. And you know, when I would question what am I doing, I अब it doesn't.
Because now you know who you are. You're not looking for another person's validation necessarily, which you were when you were
Which
younger.
I needed to be praised. I needed to be invited to lit fest. I needed that shit.
Same thing with Buaji, right? It's okay if
I needed Buaji. सबको बुआजी का approval चाहिए.
but it's okay if Buaji doesn't approve.
Sorry to my buaji and all the buajis of the world. I'm nothing personal, but yeah, it's just a metaphor for that, and it was there. I remember I became a YouTuber at 47. I'm 48 now. Last year I became in quarantine, and it was like it's silly in a way that I'm sitting talking to the camera, making videos, and uh, you feel judged and you feel ये करने की क्या ज़रूरत है. And a lot of people said कि क्या कर रहा है वो, देखो ये बुढ़ापे में मतलब ये इनको चल रहा है कि
Why are you allowing other people's
it
judgment?
doesn't matter now. It doesn't. Like I said, it really doesn't matter. And it people like you say, "Arey, you used to make films and used to this. Abhi kya YouTube?"
Who decides which is more important and which is more valuable?
And I think YouTube is the way to reach people. I am able to talk to you and present it to the people who are interested in me because of YouTube and because of Audible, where this is on through a podcast.
The chance to reach so many people. In my practice, I can only reach a limited number of.
I mean, we could have cast you in 2 states. At least in the therapist scene, but they never showed the therapist, to be fair. They just showed him. You could have done Alia's role, maybe.
Maybe. I'm not an actress.
So anyway, let's keep going. You talked about broadly we use the word depression, and it's a very big word as much as mental health. And I have seen opinions on all ends. Don't take depression lightly. Depression is a big thing. Depression is a big thing. And then I've also seen depression isn't real. So it's nonsense. Get on with it. Get on with your life. Do the work. Go to the gym. This that. I mean, I'm just giving the polar opposite. Both sound very like उस time पे देखो तो लगता है यार बड़ा अच्छा बोल रहे हैं. But what is it? What is depression? What is depression? What is a bad mood? What is feeling low? And you know, like when do I take drugs? When do I take therapy? When do I just go for a walk or go for a run? How does I want to be very real about this because it's become politically correct to say mental health. I can just post mental health is important, guys, depression is important. But what does it mean? Should I start taking SSRI drugs because I'm depressed? I mean, those have 100 other side effects. I just like unpack this for us.
So I'm going to start with what a low mood is. If you're feeling tired for a day, if you're feeling like you can't focus, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling a temporary loss of appetite, if there's a big thing happening and you're feeling little out of sorts, and a sad event, you moved to a place, you moved houses, all that is low mood. What is the differentiating factor between depression and low mood? Low mood lasts for a few days. It doesn't last for a long
For a few days.
It can last for 2, 3, 4, 5 days, but it lifts. It lifts when you do some activity that you enjoy, maybe by going for a run, or you meet friends, or you exercise, and the mood lifts. Depression is something more serious than that. And that happens when this low mood lasts for 2 weeks or more. And even though you are doing these different uplifting activities, that sense of depression is not lifting. Some of the hallmark characteristics of depression are a change in your sleeping patterns. Either you're sleeping too much and you can't wake up, or you're sleeping too little. Change in your eating patterns. Either you are unable to eat at all, or you're binge eating because you're feeling sad. Some people have a low mood, they're unable to concentrate at all. There's a sense of apathy or a loss of interest in anything in life. हाँ, मैं पूरा दिन टीवी के सामने बैठ सकती हूँ, मैं पूरा दिन बेड में बैठ सकती हूँ. So those are
बहुत लोग हैं आशिका लाइफ में.
a lot of people whose depression is undiagnosed. कुछ नहीं करते, कोई भी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी हो नहीं करते, पूरा दिन ऐसे ही गुजरता है in nothingness.
A lot of old people in India like that. Would you say like a retired? They just sit in front of the TV all day. Not all. Some do like other things. They have friends. They celebrate festivals.
People
They
do
cook and all.
things,
But
right?
a lot of people like, or forget old people. There are people who just do like exactly what you're
Depression
saying.
is very common in the elderly
Oh.
because they have very few, they're not mobile anymore. They find it difficult to actually show up and do things because of physical disability. So, depression is very common. And I think family members need to take this seriously to make sure that they're trying to engage their elders as much as possible, whether it's with board games, whether it's reading with them, whether it's assisting them to go out for walks, engaging with their friends, calling their friends over, calling relatives over. It's required. But depression is, you can diagnose it when you're experiencing any of these symptoms for a duration longer than 2 weeks.
Okay, so 2 weeks is kind of where you start getting
And
worried.
many
Ki,
people will experience depression in the course of their life.
ah,
But it's not that everyone needs to take medication. In very extreme cases of clinical depression, if that is the time that medication can help, but counseling also helps a lot. Where what is the root of depression? They say partly depression is genetic, but partly depression is also based on your life circumstances. For a lot of people, the depression starts when that blueprint is has given you certain beliefs about how life should be. You know, in that 0 to 9, even up to 18, you develop ideas. The world is not a safe place. I am not a capable person. I had critical parents, so maybe I was bullied in school. So you have ideas about the world that I am incapable, I am not deserving, my needs are too much. And if we don't unpack these underlying beliefs we have about ourselves, when we encounter a stressful life event, बहुत से stresses आते हैं, जैसे कि I didn't get into the college of my choice, postpartum depression, लोगों को बच्चे पैदा करने के बाद भी hormonal changes होते हैं, after marriage, death of a loved one. There's so many, breakup, divorce, losing a job. There's so many stressful life events. And what those stressful life events often do is it either brings up the critic in us. We have a side of our ego that's constantly judging us. So that side will say, you're not smart enough, you're not lovable enough, you're not talented enough, you're not intelligent enough, you're not rich enough, you're not successful enough, you're not perfect enough. Then with that, social comparison will also come. अभी सब पूरा दिन यूट्यूब पे स्क्रॉल कर रहे हैं, इंस्टाग्राम पे स्क्रॉल,
about social media, so separate deserves a separate discussion. But
all
yes,
that will happen, and that stressful event and that critic within us will really bubble up and exacerbate our beliefs about the world. And if those beliefs about the world are faulty because of what happened between 0 and 18, when our ideas of the world were getting set up, that will plunge us into a state of anxiety or depression. So, really, counseling helps you to look at that map and correct it and have healthier ideas about what the world is and about yourself.
so then it's counseling, and then if more extreme cases there are drugs. What kind of drugs?
So, you
Of course,
would have to go to a psychiatrist.
but they
I
are
would definitely say, please do not. They alter the neurotransmitters in your brain. So they work on serotonin and dopamine. And there are lots and lots of different kinds of drugs. It would require a separate podcast. But what I would suggest is please don't take drugs and sleep medication. That is not medication for depression. A lot of people go to their GPs and say, you know, मुझे तकलीफ हो रही है, give me a pill to make me sleep. That's not going to help you with your depression.
really.
So please go to a
People go to the chemist in India.
वही तो ना,
नींद नहीं आ रही, जरा कुछ देना.
ये तो you
That's
must,
very bad. Let's just be very clear. That is very bad.
that is not going to help your depression, and it could have other side effects. You need to go to a qualified psychiatrist who can assess you and give you the appropriate medication if medication is what you need. Most of the time, counseling helps, but there are also other strategies to help you lift out of a depression. Exercise has been shown to be very effective. So has meditation. The ability to meditate, center yourself, breath work, do breathing exercises, pranayam. It really helps center you. It's not a substitute for counseling or therapy, it's not a substitute for medication, but it can help you get out of a depression and maintain that sense of peace and balance and a healthy mental state. A healthy mental state is not the absence of mental illness, it is the presence of well being. And these practices help you to get
I think
that
that's
well
an
being.
important line to underline, because that's like a, a healthy mental state is not the absence of disease, but it's also actually feeling well and happy. Like, so matlab, good mental health is not just कि मेरे को कोई तकलीफ नहीं है, it is also मेरे को अच्छा फील हो रहा है, मेरे को I feel good about life, I feel optimistic, कल बेहतर होगा.
Contributing member of society, I'm a member of community, I'm a loving family person, I'm useful to others, I'm compassionate to others, I have a purpose in life, I have meaning in life. All of the I have spiritual some spiritual evolving within myself. It's all of those things.
Let's I will talk about social media. You mentioned it briefly, but you since you just mentioned purpose in life, ये लोगों को बहुत है आजकल की, भाई purpose क्या है, what is the purpose of life, जिंदगी का मतलब क्या है. And there are friends of mine who are actually in pretty senior positions, who are IIT IIM graduates maybe, and then they're like in their mid 40s and running like banks and big organization, or they may have their own startups and they're very rich now. uh, but they sometimes I've seen they say like कि जिंदगी में I'm not feeling motivated, I'm not feeling like purpose. जिंदगी का मतलब क्या है? They feel purposeless, even though they are, you know, director for the North Zone for a multi-billion company. Wh- ये क्या है? How do we understand this concept of purpose? Does it have to be a big purpose? सबको अन्ना हजारे बनना है? Like पूरा ऐसे समाज बदलना है? सबको मदर टेरेसा बनना है? What is purpose?
ऐसे तो कोई बात नहीं है. Purpose, I want to say, is something that evolves with time and circumstance. My purpose in school was to be a good student and learn. Okay, and when I graduated, my purpose evolved, right? And the earlier part, maybe at some point it was to find a life partner and start a family. Then it evolved to something else. It became to build a career as a therapist and hone my knowledge. So like that, each person's purpose evolves with time and circumstance. And so I think when you talk about your friends who are in their 40s and are wondering what their purpose is now, they would have to introspect and say, okay, and maybe at some point, building a career, uh, earning money, supporting my family, that was my purpose. Maybe now my purpose is different. Maybe I need to give back. Maybe I need to find what drives me and gives me meaning. Maybe just running the organization is not enough. Maybe education, teaching, mentoring, something else will give meaning and purpose. But I think we need to be open to the fact that that is evolving. You can't have just one purpose through your life, right? You look at someone like Mahatma Gandhi, his purpose evolved through his life as well. At some point, it was to be a lawyer, and at another point, it was to help a country gain independence, and that evolved with circumstance. You talk to Bill Gates or any of these people, when at 18, he could not have told you what his life was going to be and what the purpose of his life was going to be. He was just busy trying to make some technological advance, and at that moment, that was his purpose. And when he achieved that, that changed his circumstance, and the changed circumstance helped him find and evolve his purpose. Similar to you, at some point you were making movies, and at some point you were writing books, and now you want to reach an even larger audience.
Now I want to help them. I mean, see, there was, you're absolutely right, my purpose has changed, and I do have and it is not an easy question to answer, because it keeps changing. And what people often do is, what was purpose once becomes obsolete. वो फिर उसका मतलब नहीं है, आप पैसे बना रहे थे उस टाइम शायद ज़रूरी था, बाद में भी बनाते जा रहे हैं, वो कह रहे हैं अरे यार यही तो मैं कर रहा था पहले, तो ठीक था, अब क्या हो गया, बिकॉज इट चेंजेस. एंड for me, I've written 10 bestsellers, that, like, you know, 5 6 movies. So I was like, okay, I can write 2 more bestsellers, and my resume will say 12 instead of 10. But उन दो books को लिखने के time में if I can make 100 videos which can help like literally lakhs of people become achieve make their own mini achievements. You know, many people write कि आपकी वजह से I focused and I my business doing better, my studies improved, whatever, my health improved. And I feel that's a better use of my talents or whatever, my time and energy.
So, who decides what your purpose is? You decide what your purpose is.
किसी ने आके तो मेरे को नहीं बोला कि चेतन अभी ये करो.
तो आपको डिसाइड करना है, और वो डिसीजन थोड़ी इंट्रोस्पेक्शन के बाद ही आएगी.
हाँ, yeah, that's definitely true. So guys, this introspection and all is very important. This whole thing you mentioned, meditation, spirituality, inner introspection, all these things are there in our Eastern philosophies, Indian philosophies.
And that is the strength of our culture.
That is also important, even though you come from a more Western education, Western therapy and all is very Western concept. You feel both have a place?
I definitely feel both have a place, and as I have been evolving my practice, a lot of books on Eastern tradition have influenced me and how I think and what I look at as the meaning and purpose of life, and what I work with my clients on. I want them to see that there is deeper meaning, greater purpose, stillness within us that we can access, and I incorporate a lot of breath work into my anxiety coping techniques as well, which is all stemmed from my Eastern tradition.
Let's talk of anxiety. Actually, anxiety क्या है और लोगों में बहुत कॉमन हो गई है. बहुत लोग, स्पेशली यंग पीपल से, some people say it's because of social media. So after anxiety we'll talk of social media. But and how do, like you said, how to fix it. You know, you feel घबराहट जिसे कहते हैं. How anxiety.
एंजाइटी के सिम्टम्स बहुत से होते हैं. बहुत से लोगों को ऐसे घबराहट जैसे सिम्टम्स होते हैं, जैसे उनकी हार्ट बीट तेज़ हो गई है और ब्रीदिंग शैलो हो जाती हैं. ऐसे पेट में दर्द होता है, लाइक अ बॉल ऑफ एंजाइटी इन योर स्टमक, स्वेटिंग. तो एंजाइटी लोगों को क्यों होती है? Many reasons. In our society, we are learning more and more that we need to be less vulnerable and we need to be more perfect. And it's tied to not only the messaging we get in school and from our parents and families, but also social media. Everything we see is perfect. So imagine, actually, none of us are perfect. Nobody is perfect and nothing is perfect. So, one of the techniques to be happier and to deal with anxiety is to break down your ideas around perfection. That this is a construct, it is not a reality. ये perfection एक idea है, सच्चाई नहीं है. लाइफ में कुछ भी परफेक्ट नहीं है. एंड द मिनट वी लर्न टू एक्सेप्ट imperfection and authenticity, when we learn to value that, I think a lot of the standards that we hold ourselves to, the ridiculous standards, start to wash away. सो परफेक्शनिज्म. दूसरी चीज़ है सोशल कंपैरिजन. वो ऐसे कर रहा है तो मुझे भी ऐसे करना चाहिए. वो इतने पैसे कमा रहा है, मैं इतने पैसे नहीं कमा रही हूँ. उनके पास उसकी लेटेस्ट आईफोन है. फॉरगेट मटेरियल थिंग्स. उनकी मैरिड लाइफ कितनी हैप्पी है, मेरी मैरिड लाइफ इतनी अच्छी नहीं है. उनके 2 बच्चे कितने स्मार्ट है, मेरे बच्चे तो बैली पास होते हैं. यू नो दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग. उनके हॉलीडेज़ देखो कितने मज़े लेते हैं, उनकी फैमिली देखो कितनी क्लोज है. वॉट एवर यू आर कंपेयरिंग, उनके लुक्स देखो, मेरे लुक्स देखो. This is all. Why are we so consumed by what somebody else is doing? It's irrelevant. Your benchmark of progress should be with yourself. This is your journey. You have one life. You have to make meaning and progress towards your changing purpose. If your entire attention is focused on what somebody else is doing, where are you going to get the mental space or the time to focus on you and take the steps required to move in that direction?
Yes, that's very well put. And how would you like then? Okay, supposing people feel anxiety, whether it's from social media, whether it's from perfectionism, whether it's from just a fear of something.
How would they deal with it?
कैसे इसको ठीक करना है?
एंग्जाइटी में काउंसलिंग की ज़रूरत होती है और आप वापस उस ब्लूप्रिंट पे जाएंगे और यू विल क्वेश्चन व्हाट आर योर बिलीव्स. इफ़ आप सोशल कंपैरिजन कर रहे हो, आप परफेक्शनिस्ट बन रहे हो, आपकी बिलीफ है कि world is not a safe place, I cannot be authentic, why do you think it's not a safe place? You'll question it. What happened in that 0 to 18 to create these ideas about the world? And then the therapist will help you see that yes, it in fact is a safe place today. You can take a small risk, you can prove to yourself that you don't need to be so fearful. We go into our deepest past pains under stress. That is the natural tendency of the mind. But when you sort out what happened there, you sort out that pain that you are holding from the past, then you are free to live your life to it and fulfill your own potential. That doesn't hold you back. So, anxiety is about really clearing those cobwebs, those ideas that are not working for you anymore. The ideas that you hold so dear that you may not even be aware of. All these ideas sit in our subconscious. It's only when we have a conversation with someone about them that they come out.
Okay, and what else can people do? Supposing, of course, if they can get a therapist, great. What are some of the things people can do if while they don't have a therapist, like you told in depression, exercise?
Breathing exercises help a lot. Pranayams help a lot. Affirmations help a lot.
What is affirmation?
Affirmations is rewiring your beliefs and your brain. So if you have grown up believing, I am not intelligent, I am not capable, the brain just repeats this in a loop over and over again. Every time you do something, the brain will say, but you're not capable, you're not intelligent, and it sucks the wind out of you. We need to replace those negative statements with positive statements. We need to reprogram our brain. So you need to say things to yourself like, I am intelligent, I am capable, I am deserving, I am beautiful, I am loved, I am worthy. Look in the mirror every day, look into your own eyes and say them with intention, say them with sincerity. And over time, as you gain these practices, all the things that make you anxious, anxiety is a symptom, it's not a cause. So you have to actually treat the belief system that is creating the anxiety.
Yeah. Would you also say unfollow some people on social media who are giving you that anxiety? Because it is
Definitely, definitely. Anyone who doesn't make you feel good about you, there is no need to follow.
it could even be a celebrity who's got this perfect body and
Celebrity, it can be an influencer, it can be a friend. It doesn't matter who it is. You don't owe it to anyone to follow. In fact, you're torturing yourself if it's not helping you in some way.
and if you have to follow a friend, मतलब बुरा मान जाएंगे, तो you can always follow and mute them. That's always
I mean, that's up to you. I would just unfollow.
you just be authentic. And what if they ask तूने मुझे
If they ask, you tell them, say, listen, it's not good for my mental health. So I've just cut it out.
interesting. Social media, actually, you have mentioned it many times, and you're saying it's a leading cause of
Increasingly, one is seeing many people in their 20s and 30s have a crisis of self-confidence because they are constantly comparing themselves to others on social media.
And I think like different social media have different uses and different problems. Like Twitter is a aggressive kind of place where people are spewing negativity, and so while you're not seeing comparisons of people going to vacation in Maldives or whatever, um, you you see a lot of hate, you see a lot of negativity, you see a lot of abusive language, you see a lot of just disharmony,
Which I think also comes from the fact that as a people are so discontent, and it's almost like a place where people are allowed to express that
why
discontent.
are people so discontent? Why are so many people unhappy? Actually, it's a very big broad existential question, but why is humanity so unhappy? A lot of it is, a lot of
Because
people.
I think we're just breeding a competitive society where everyone is trying to be better than the other instead of saying, my life is unique, my life is special, it doesn't have to be like anyone else's, and these are the things I value within my own life. Look at it again, look at everything. Everything is about a medal, a competition, who's coming first, marks. I mean, you from the time we're young, we're instead of being taught to value our uniqueness, we are taught to obliterate our uniqueness, get into a rat race, and be better than the other.
And then you end up being in a place where you have unhappiness, midlife crisis, sadness, depression, anxiety.
And I remember Brene Brown said this. I can't remember her exact quote, but she said, I think she said, anxiety is when you're caught between social comparison and then being better than the other person at that thing. So that's what gives you anxiety, right? It's saying, I can't be me. I have to be like you, but I have to be better than you. It's when you're caught in that sandwich. But if you say, I can be me, I don't have to be you, and I don't have to be better than you, imagine how relieving that could be. And it would allow each person to contribute to this planet and to society in such a meaningful and unique way.
And have you seen that happen with your patients? Have you like seen them transform themselves and go on to lead better quality, better mental health, more happier lives?
I'll let you answer that question.
No, I have, but yes, I mean, I'm just
Of course. It
yeah.
happens all the time, and it's so rewarding when you see somebody who's trapped, who's stuck, who's unhappy, who's doing things they don't want to do, and finally they get the courage to be vulnerable, and finally they're not ashamed of their choices. They can stand up for them, they can be authentic, and maybe their progress won't be the traditional progress that you see. Not everyone is economically successful, not everyone necessarily is becomes famous, but a lot of people are being true to who they are, and they have much better mental health, much better life satisfaction. They're more at peace and they're more joyous, I would say.
That's great. Let's talk about certain other things related to not necessarily psychological ailments, but common things. We keep slipping back to bad habits. Human beings have a tendency. I have this tendency. I will say, I will eat like super clean, on point, and I try and I do. But every now and then I will say, yeah, I know sugar is bad for me. I should not have. But then I'll see a buffet, and then there is some dessert. Chalo, I'll at least have one or two, like that. And then slowly the cycle comes back. Then I'm eating sugar again, even though I so why do we have bad habits, and why do we keep slipping back to bad habits, and why is it so hard to get rid of bad habits, and why is it hard to put on good habits, and how can we deal with it from a psychological point standpoint?
So it's also habits are conditioning, right? You do something once, you do it again, and it becomes normalized. And when you're speaking of bad habits like smoking, drinking, having an unhealthy relationship with food, all these things often are an escape when we feel emotionally burdened, when we feel emotionally overwhelmed. We turn to these things for comfort. Do they actually give us comfort? Not necessarily, because everything in moderation is good, anything in excess is bad. I mean, smoking, even in moderation, is bad, and
Bad.
so is drinking,
Bad.
because it has
Bad only.
a very, very bad physiological effect on you. But I think what any of these addictions do is they release a lot of dopamine, which is the feel good neurotransmitter in our brain. And we get addicted to that feeling. It numbs out everything else. So dopamine is released after you have a few drinks, you forget about your problems. So the urge to do it again is there. And every time you do it, you need a little more alcohol to give you the same kick. And you need a little more cigarette to give you the same kick. And you need a little more food to give you the same kick. You need a little more drugs to give you the same kick. And that's how the addiction sets in. And what are addictions? There really is, we don't have effective coping techniques to deal with struggle, to deal with difficulty, to deal with painful emotions. We've been taught that as that it's not okay to talk about pain.
Hmm. Especially emotional pain.
It's not okay. It's a sign of weakness. And so then what tools do you have to cope with it is all these different addictions. However, if you are able to tell yourself that it's, let me process it, let me talk, let me be authentic, let me face my emotions, let me work through them, let there not be a taboo around this discussion, then your mind doesn't need to go to these dysfunctional coping techniques.
That's true. There are, speaking of addictions, one specific one, like, let's talk about it. I mean, men, and I can speak for males. I can't speak for females because I'm not female. But for men, the sexual drive is a very big part of their identity or whatever, their personality. And especially when you're young, you're full of hormones. We don't talk about it, but men think about sex and girls and, like, which unfortunately is happening at the same time when you need to focus on your career the most. 20s, you know uh, that's when. And then there are various ways men cope with it, because of the, maybe the way our society is, maybe because of the it's so easily available. Pornography is another, I would say, addiction that is there, and I think it's the same mechanism. It is so pleasurable to watch, and
It watching pornography releases the same dopamine.
so the same. It's like laddu kha lo ya dopamine.
You watch one video, and then the second time you watch it, you want the neuroreceptors in your brain, once that much dopamine is secreted, get numb to it, so they start closing down. So every time you need more dopamine. So then what is happening is people are watching more and more um, explicit graphic forms of pornography. It's almost like a thrill. The brain gets a thrill from watching.
I'm seeing two people have sex. Now I want to see four people have sex. Now I want to see 10 people. Now I'm seeing
Possibly.
50
And it
people bang
becomes
bang.
it becomes more demeaning to the people involved, the kind of language that is used, and it has so many terrible,
And it's still not turning them on after a while.
and it's leading to a lot of sexual dysfunction. People are finding it difficult to be aroused.
So men, in case of men, it can lead to erection problems.
Yes, because what is normal in real life and what they are watching and what is arousing them, there's a huge gap between that. They're also becoming less sensitive to their partners, to their sexual partners. It doesn't matter what sex or gender those people are, but it can be more abusive, more hurtful in those sexual interactions, because it's being normalized when they are watching this kind of porn. Because every time they're watching the porn, they need to it needs to be a little more graphic, a little more explicit, a little more whatever, to give them that same dopamine hit. And so it's really disrupting a lot of relationships, a lot of.
I once said that people who watch a lot of porn, real sex is just bad porn, because people have stretch marks and people have dark, spots and whatever. But in porn, I don't know, people know this, but porn stars get makeup on their ass, basically. Like, they basically have all, they're perfected, they're like photoshopped, whatever.
I think it's something to stay away from, because it destroys the very fiber of authentic connection, which is what you're trying to build if you're trying to live a mentally healthy, balanced life.
Yeah. Not only that, like, because what often guys have reported is not just all these other problems, uh, physical problems with, like, bodily arousal, problems of connection with people, is that they feel very low afterwards. Because I think once that dopamine high goes down,
It's like the same way you'd feel after binge drinking, right?
yeah,
Or drugs. You go through the high and then you go through the low, because your chemical balance of your body is altered.
yeah. And this dopamine actually is supposed to be released from effort based productive activities. Like, if you go to the gym, then also it will release dopamine. But if you, like, have an achievement, accomplishment, true accomplishment,
If you have genuine connection and you have an authentic conversation, you feel understood by someone,
that also can.
also release it.
So, and those are all good, healthy ways to get your dopamine hit. And
Yes.
that's the true reward system. When we evolved, I guess there was no internet or screens, and so the brain is not wired to see porn.
Speaking of dopamine hits, it's also why people are addicted to social media, because with every like and every click and every view, they become obsessed with checking how many likes, how many views, how many clicks, because it gives them a tiny little dopamine hit.
Yeah, I think I had that because I was popular, and mine my likes were in the thousands, so it like another 1,000 likes will give me a same hit. But then I realized this is endless. Like I feel it's a black hole, and you keep the more you have, the more you want, and there's always going to be someone getting more likes, and it's not, what does it even mean, these likes on a screen? What does it mean?
Your worth is not dependent on what anyone else thinks of you. Your worth is inherent in you.
Yes. Discipline is something I talk about a lot. Self discipline, coming corollary to habits. Like you need self discipline in life for everything, to have go to the gym properly, to maintain your diet, to study properly. This is what most people are doing on my channel. How does one build discipline from a psychological point of view?
By making sure your purpose is authentic.
Okay.
So if I am struggling to go to the gym, for example, then what would one's purpose here be? Is it to be healthy? Is it to condition your muscles? Or is it to look a certain way?
And post on Instagram.
Post on, if it's to look a certain way and post on Instagram, suddenly that creates too much pressure.
Mhm.
And so when there's too much pressure, the desire to give up is higher. But when the purpose is, I want to be healthy, I want to wear clothes that make me feel good, I want to fit into my clothes, I want, I don't want uh, ailments, I want to be fit, then your purpose is authentic, and so the desire to go is also higher. Pressure kills motivation. So to be disciplined under pressure is very hard, which is, I think, what young people need to know, that don't put too much pressure. You don't have to be this way or that way. Do your best, try, persist. When you feel like you're losing motivation, go back and ask yourself, what is my purpose? And try to be as true to yourself as you can.
Yes. But would you say some pressure is good? Because the other thing is just be, love yourself the way you are and be your authentic self. And my
Then you
authentic,
can't move forward in life.
yeah,
So,
my authentic self is eating kurkure and watching TV, and I want to get fat, and this is me, and you should love me.
deep disregard and disrespect for yourself.
Mm.
There's a difference there. Because if you regard yourself, good mental health is the ability to say that I am a productive member of society. I can handle the stress, the daily stresses of life. I am a member of the community. I feel connected to the community. Then to say that I want to eat kurkure and watch TV is not serving any of these purposes, right? You have to be able to function. You have to be able to look after yourself and your own needs. You have to be able to contribute. So then, what you're describing would be unhealthy.
Right. Do you also get people who are trying to get rid of like addictions like alcohol, cigarettes? Can they be like removed from therapy?
Therapy can help. Now there is medication to help with the withdrawal symptoms of getting of de-addiction, or coming back from those habits. And there's also support groups available. I think most cities in India would have an Alcoholics Anonymous and an equivalent for people who are getting off drugs as well. And you can just look up websites in your area and find those groups, and they're very, very effective in helping you stay off drugs and alcohol.
I'm going to do something very brave. I'm going to ask you so that people get an idea of how it is, and I'm going to make myself the guinea pig. I don't know if you remember, but when I first came to you, right, what was my issue? When I came to you, when I was struggling with leaving my job, and I came to you, what was my issue, and how did you approach it? I'll be the case study. I don't mind.
I think it might be a little bit difficult for us to mimic it and repeat
No,
it
maybe, but
because
broadly, what was the issue you thought I was facing, and how do you think you like guided me out of it, and what steps did I finally take, so people know, because I've gone to you for therapy once, and I think it's people should know what it is all about.
So, what I can recall from that time was that you had a lot of shoulds. You had a rule book of how life should be, what you should, where you should work, where you should be educated, what kind of a spouse you should be, what kind of a parent you should be. There was so many shoulds, and it was so taxing because your authentic self probably did not align with what was written in your rule book. And I think what happened through those sessions was you examining your own rule book and saying, hey, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense, this rule about what my career should be has come from my experience as a child and what I saw within my own family, and maybe this is not what I need to do, and maybe it's okay to have a little less money. Maybe the insecurity about money should not be the driving thing in my life and in my career choices. So you were able to go back and examine your life and see what are all the I have to, I should, I need to do this, and examine that rule book and see what made sense for you and what didn't. And I think that was the turning point where you were able to step out of a comfort zone of what you knew into a vulnerable zone of what you didn't know. And that took a lot of courage.
It really changed the course of my life, and I think I've removed a lot of shoulds, not all shoulds, but I should remove all the shoulds. There's another
Don't even
should.
put that pressure
Yeah.
on you. As and when you will, I'm sure that journey of introspection is one that goes on and on.
Yeah, that's
Once you
definitely.
know how to do it.
Since I have you, and now it's not connected to treatments, you have a career as a therapist. Many people may be interested in becoming a therapist. So, who is this for? Who is this career? Somebody who just wants to do your job. So, now I'm talking as from a career point of view, not so much about all the issues we discussed, which were wonderful. Who is it for? And how does one become a therapist? How does one become this? Can I just say that okay, I'm a therapist, call me?
Master's degree
In?
you, in psychology. So I did my MSW from the US, which is a master's in clinical social work. But in India, most people do a master's in psychology, which trains them to become a therapist. Some people go on to do a PhD as well. But a master's is the basic degree. And then there are many, many certificate courses in India. I know SNDT offers some. I know Mumbai University offers some. I'm sure universities
Yeah, I
all
know
over the
you know places here.
all over India offer it. But more than the degree, I think what is required in this career are two things. One is you need to be an incredibly open minded, non judgmental, and curious person. You have to want to understand the meaning of life on many different levels. You have to want to read, to expand your domain of knowledge, to accept and understand different perspectives because there isn't one truth. These perspectives can come from many different kinds of readings. So, I have read on Jain philosophy, from where I learned the concept of Anikantvad, which means there is no one truth. And there's a story of an elephant. The five guys were blindfolded and they were asked to touch different parts of the elephant, and each person thought they were touching something different. So the guy who touched the tail thought he was holding a rope, and the guy who touched the leg thought he was holding a pillar, and so on and so forth. And it's a very important thing to embrace the diversity of perspective in this career. So, an open mind is important. And the second thing that is truly important is your own ability to introspect, examine your own life, understand your own blueprint, work yourself out of whatever places you are stuck in that blueprint, your limiting beliefs. And yeah, that's important because if you can't see where you yourself are blind to something, you won't be able to help someone else because you can't see it in them.
Yes. And so, guys, if this is something that interests you, do explore this as a career. I've been honest enough to admit and even tell what my diagnosis or whatever observations on me were. So you get it's So it's something definitely that added value to me. Up to you if you do or not. But even if not that, today you heard a lot from Dr. Ashika, and she must have anything else actually you want to tell to this young person, the average viewer of my channel, male, maybe female, late teens, early 20s, at the crossroads in life, unsure, underconfident of what they want to do, how they should balance their career, health, relationships, feeling low sometimes, feeling unsure about the future. How, what tips do you have for them? How should they go about living their life to make sure they are happy, basically?
Three things I can tell you. The first is, do not think only about yourself. Think beyond yourself. How can you be of service to people? How can you be of help to people? I think too many of us are caught up with ourselves, and it's not always a healthy thing. So the moment you move beyond yourself, you can make impact. And I hear lots of young people saying they want to make impact in the world. That only happens when you move beyond yourself and beyond your own ego. The second is read. Read, read, read. Expand your perspective, your understanding of life, its meaning, its purpose will also grow as you experience new things and you read new things. Read philosophy, read fiction, read articles on psychology, read everything you can get your hands on and understand the world around you and your role in it. And the third thing is, take pride in yourself, value your own mind, value your own ideas, value your own opinions. They don't have to fit with what other people think. You don't have to fit in. You have to be you and carve out a space for who you are. So be authentic. Don't be afraid of that. Thank you.
That was really well put. And guys, apart from these three things, if you've reached this far, as you know what you have to do to support my channel, to support interviews like this, you must like, subscribe, and share so that the YouTube algorithm promotes such videos. And please, अगर आप comment डालेंगे, I promise you Dr. Ashika will see them herself, maybe reply to a few if you feel like, if you feel them. And please do tell her what you felt about this, whether you agree, disagree, kuch bhi, just give your comment on this. And this was different, like I said, but huge value added. It was a great experience for me. What was it like, since you don't do these that many normally
No, I really enjoyed being on your show, Chetan. Thank you for having me here, because one of the things that I want to do at this stage in my career is reach out to more and more people.
Yes.
And that's very hard to do in my practice. And this gives me a platform to talk about mental health and give it the important space in our conversations that it deserves.
No, the pleasure is all ours. And there is going to be, unfortunately, we live in times where most people are going to keep watching their Insta reels and play video games and watch porn. I mean, I want them to stop. They may
But
not.
hopefully with a little more awareness.
Yes. And this channel is for people, I always say it is for people who want to self develop, come in the top 5% of society in every way, in achievement, career, happiness. You need to be top 5%. So people who come here are very serious. People who come here are, this channel is not about getting the max views or showing prank videos or things like that. It is to really add value. It's my legacy. It's something I'm doing to help people, and today you've really contributed in that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. ये था deep talk with Dr. Ashika. Hope you liked it. Thank you for watching. Take care.